Hey, hi everybody. Today we have no other than Graeme Barclay, the president of the New Zealand Bromeliad Society, a good friend of our Bromeliad Society, and the mastermind behind the Species Database at the Bromeliad Society International. So he's gonna show us how to find all our species information online and how to make the best use of this wonderful resource. Take it away, Graeme. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Juliana, and great to be here with you all. Yes, we're going to be looking at today a few resources that I commonly use online, and I'm sure most of you would also be familiar with them. But as we find with many of our society members, we get new members in. We have some older members that maybe are a little bit unsure about the internet. So I've just put together some common websites that are easy to use and are also a little bit new in the Bromeliad world. So I hope you'll be able to, after the lesson today, be able to make use of those and find out what you're looking for. So there are many sources of information on the internet, and we're only going to look at a few of them today. But of course, what we're all wanting to find is the most up-to-date information, which is always the best, of course. A lot of websites sometimes get out of date with name changes and maybe have wrong photos and things like that. So what you want to do is to always try and access sites that are somewhat official and you can basically trust. And what we see there is five things that we should all be using, whether we're looking up hybrids, species, and maybe doing things like writing articles and things like that, which I do a lot of, and I know some of you do as well. So we're going to go through each of these five things quickly. I'm going to be clicking through some slides fairly quickly, but we'll look at each one of those, and hopefully by the end of it, you'll get a better idea of where you can go. Okay, so firstly, you would have seen on the previous screen there, the BSI is the International Cultivar Registration Authority for bromeliads. That means that they are the only official entity that is able to register bromeliad cultivar names. And this is the main page of the BSI website, and down the bottom there you see BCR, which is the Bromeliad Cultivar Register, and on the right hand side we have the new BSD, which is the Bromeliad Species Database that I'm managing, and on the left hand side we have the BSI Journal Archive. So we're going to go into those quickly and just have a quick look at some of the features in there. We don't have time today to look at everything in there, but the idea is that I'll give you a few little tips and you can go away and have a play with them yourselves, and I'm sure you'll learn a few new things. So firstly, let's look at the BCR. And as I mentioned, this is where you come to look up hybrid names or cultivar names, and they are official. That means that once a name is registered in here, that becomes the official name worldwide, and nobody else can register a plant under that specific name in the future. So we have a search box down the bottom there where you can type in the name of a plant or the name of a breeder, and click the search button and it will give you some results. So here's just an example here, and we have some key data on this page that some people sometimes get a little bit confused about. We have obviously the plant name, and on the right hand side we have 2008. That is the year that it was bred, not the year that it was registered. And then in the text there we have Reg Doc for 2018. That was the month and the year that the plant was actually registered. You can see here that there's question marks for the seed and the pollen parent, which means that the breeder is unsure of what the parents are for that. And then, of course, the description and the name of the breeder is David Fell, of course, for this lovely breeder. breeder and parentage data can sometimes be confused as well. Here we can see an example, Breja Hunua Ranges, and we can see we have J. Mitchell, and then we also have P. Coyle with an asterisk after it. And that means that John Mitchell was the breeder of this plant, but Peter Coyle was the person who actually named it, because he actually, in this case, he actually grew the seed of this plant. And so it was registered by Andrew Devonshire, you can see there, who was the New Zealand registrar at the time. So sometimes you'll see a name in the text there as well after the documentation date, and that means that it was the person who registered it. There's also an advanced search function in the BCR, which is very handy to use. And this is great to use when you're doing things like articles, or you want to find out about a certain group of plants. So here you can see an example where under the notes field, I've typed in Nudicornis group and clicked search, and it will bring up 30 results on the left-hand side there. And all of those are actual cultivars of Eckmia nudicornis. So there are certain groups of plants that have been put into groups by the registrars, and makes it easy to do searches like that. So I'd recommend you have a little play around with these this advanced search functions, and you'll be quite surprised at what you can find out in there. We don't have time to look at all the examples today, but that just gives you an idea of what you can actually do with the BCR that not a lot of people know about.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've never done that one.
Yeah. So also registration. Quite often we hear is like, oh, I don't know how to register a plant, and who do I send my information to, and all that kind of thing. You can actually very easily do it yourself online. It's been built with a new registration link in the menu up here. You simply click it. You simply fill in the fields there. There's drop downs for things like genus, the cultivar name, what country it was bred in, your registration details, parentage, and then you can write in any notes about the plant. Oops, sorry, I'm clicking my little wheel there. And then you can simply submit it, and that goes into the database for the registrar. After the screen here, it will actually ask you to upload photos, because registrations cannot be made without photos of the plant. So I'd recommend, if you were going to register a plant, you have if possible, a photo of it in bloom, and also a picture from the top and the picture from the side, which gives a good perspective of it. So yeah, you're quite welcome to do it yourself. Obviously, with things like registration, you need to be checking with the breeder or whoever developed the plant first is a good idea. Don't just go ahead and register plants without getting their permission.
Yeah.
Or talking to them at least about it in the first place. And that just stops things like being registered sort of twice under the same name and those kinds of issues. Okay, so that's how you do that. Now we move on to the BSD. Now this is a new database, as I mentioned earlier, that we released about 2 years ago now. And some people are still finding their way around this and learning about what's in there. But I'm going to give you a little bit of history about how this came to be, because it's quite important you know the depth of information that has gone into the BSD and what you can actually find in there. So you can see on the front page there, it's the same kind of format that the BCR uses. We have all of the Bromeliad genera down the left-hand side there in a menu. Myself and Eric Guda in Netherlands manage the database. So we're going to have just a little bit of history of why we needed to put this into place. And as I mentioned earlier, the BSI never had anything online relating to species. We had the BCR, there were various cultural documents in the glossary and things like that that have been produced over the years, but there's not been, aside from the journal, any database that members and, in this case, non-members around the world have access to. So what we wanted to do was to create an up-to-date website and make it a central location that everybody could access. And it also goes towards fulfilling the purpose, one of the purposes of the BSI, which is education and promoting bromeliads around the world. So this is kind of, I think of it as like one of the last pieces of the puzzle for the BSI. We've had the journal, we've had other things that we've been doing over the years, like the seed bank and world conferences and things like that. But we really haven't had an area that we can access for species information, which really is one of the main purposes of the BSI in terms of conservation and research and education and promotion. So how did it come to be? Well, just take you back just over 10 years after the conference that we hosted in Auckland, New Zealand here. I struck gold. And what I mean by that was that after the conference, I was given a DVD from one of my friends who attended the conference. And on the DVD had thousands and thousands of files that Derek Butcher, I'm sure many of you would know, Uncle Derek, who has unfortunately just passed away in early January this year. So he has spent 40 years of his life, or over 40 years, Derek and Margaret Butcher, collating bromeliad information. And they would do things like scan newsletters and scan catalogs and read every bromeliad book that had ever been published, and also became involved with lots of chat rooms and online forums to share and archive bromeliad data. And of course, he was instrumental with the Florida Council to set up the original BCR and the Florida Council of Bromeliad database as well in terms of photos. So he's done a lot to promote bromeliads around the world over many, many years. And he started to make his files, all of his files, available to interested people. And it got to the stage where Derek basically had all of his information in hard copy, as you can see there. That's a photo of his office. And he was always sitting there working away and watching. And eventually he got to the stage where he started digitizing all of his information onto a DVD. And when I started writing articles, probably 10 or 15 years ago now, bromeliad information to me was always the hardest thing to get hold of. Of course, there's many, many books out there, but not everybody has all of the books. And so when I came in possession of this DVD, it was just like a treasure trove of data. It was all set up in files by genera, and it was quite easy to find what you were looking for and read many, many articles and see many photos that you'd never be able to find online.
You think all of these binders are bromeliad related?
Yes, they are. Yeah, he had a binder for every single genera and genus, sorry, and plus lots of other information that he's scanned over the years. We don't have really time to talk too much about Derek, but in 2018, I decided that this information really needed to be shared. Derek was getting to the end of his career. He was slowing down a little bit, and it wasn't long after about 2020, I think it was, he ended up going into a rest home, and that was the finish of his work. So myself and Derek and Eric got together, and we decided that we would try and create a database where we could host all of this data online and make it accessible to anybody that was interested, and more so BSI members, which he's been an honorary trustee of the BSI, Derek was, and of course Eric was the webmaster of the BSI. So we developed a bit of a strategy of what, how, who, where, and how much, and all that kind of stuff, and decided that it needed to be a progressive website. It needed to be interactive and collaborative, meaning that I wanted it to to be able to, for people around the world to upload photos and discuss plants and basically learn from the whole experience, rather than just having one person like myself who was in control of uploading all of the data. I wanted to make it a collaborative effort where anybody could actually help out doing that. And we're going to have a little bit look at that later on. And obviously to be attractive for people to use as well. So I sat there with my computer and I came up with some draft designs of how I think it could look, with some various buttons and menus and things like that. And it ended up that I sent all these sort of screenshots to Eric, and him and I worked together and we came up with the best design that would kind of suit. And sometimes you have to work within the current website framework, which is what we did. And eventually we got there, which we'll have a look at in a second. But just to give you an idea of the data that was in Derek's database. So there's currently over 37,000 files in there. And that covers all of the genera from A to Z. Photos, line drawings of descriptions. He made a Word document description file for every single species, all 3,800 and something species. And there's lots of scans in there of things like the original protologs and the original herbariums. He spent a lot of his later years scanning herbarium specimens and putting them into the database as well. So as you'll see a little bit later on, all of that information is in there for BSI members to access. So this is what we ended up with, and as we saw earlier, it's very similar to the BCR. There is a menu on the left-hand side, and you simply click on whatever genus you're looking for, and you will be given a list of all of the current species names within that genus. Now, I mentioned current because all of the name data is pulled live from Eric's taxon list. Some of you will be familiar with that, and that is what the botanists use to argue and work out what is the current names for all of the species that we are dealing with. So all of the data here is 100% up to date and accurate to the minute. So just to give you a little tour of what you can find. So for example, here we can click on Tillandsia crocata, and it will give us a gallery of a number of crocata photos that people have uploaded. You can click on one of those photos and say there's this one at the bottom here, and it will then give you larger photos. And you can see here the person, Jose Luis Garcia, I believe he's in Puerto Rico. He's uploaded these photos himself, and you can actually click on, you can click on these thumbnails here and get full-size screen images of them. Okay, you can also add a note. You can start ask a question here, or anybody can add a note or a comment about the photos themselves as well. Sorry, just to go back one step there. On this page there, once you get to the photo gallery page, you'll notice there's another button, description and resource files. And if you click that button, this is where you'll get into Derek's archives. So this is just a screenshot here. I can't actually scroll down to show you, but there would be probably a lot more photos in this on this page than, or a lot more files, I should say, on this page than we can see here. Because this is just a screenshot that I've taken for the PowerPoint. We're not on live internet here, but this gives you an idea of what you can find. You can see photographs, you can see scans of the original protologs, you can see some line drawings of the floral parts, and you can see down here, you can see an article written by Derek in January 2017 about Tillandsia crocata, and you can also see the description. So if you click on that, you'll get a transcript of the official botanical description for that species. And sorry, that there's a, oh, this is where I show you the link to the encyclopedia. So you can see here that within each species, we also have some other links at the top of the page here. We have encyclopedia, we have the taxon list, which will take you to Eric's name list, which I mentioned before, has all of the current names in it. And there's some just some quick links to Wikipedia and Google Images as well that will take you straight to those pages for that species. So one of the other ones, the main one I wanted to show you was the encyclopedia link, and you may remember that from the first slide that I showed as being one of the sites that you should be using to find out other information about it. What we've tried to do in the BSD is not replicate a lot of the data that is already in the encyclopedia that Eric Guda has put together. So, for example, if I clicked this link here, encyclopedia at the top there, it would take me straight to this page within the encyclopedia, and you can see there's some more photos. There's information there like the distribution and the habitat that the species is found, and there's some other links, menus at the top there for things like synonym names and references. The reference one is very handy because that will show you a bibliography of all of the books and journals where that species actually comes up. I don't think I didn't put a slide in there, but if you go in there and just have a play with it, you'll find out how all that information is laid out, and it's very handy for doing things like articles, because you can find out where you can go and look up books and things like that. Okay, all right. So just getting back to this, I can't find the species name, and quite often that's a problem when you are looking up the name of a plant. You have a name and you go to the BSD here and it's not in the menu. So what do? I click the Show Synonyms button at the bottom there, and then all of a sudden it will put in all of the old names into the list here. Okay, you can see the old names in black and the current names in blue. And let's say we want to look at, we have Tillandsia bradiana, all right, which used to be a common old name. I click on Tillandsia bradiana in the black menu there, and it takes me to this page here, and it tells me that Tillandsia bradiana is now Tillandsia brachycaulis. And I can click on Tillandsia brachycaulis, and it takes me to the Tillandsia brachycaulis page. So if you have a name that you can't find, you simply go to the genus page, click on the synonyms button, and you can find it'll take you straight to the current name. So no more of I can't find your information. It's so quick and easy now.
Great.
So as I mentioned earlier, you can help the BSD. You can upload your photos at any time. Help us build a legacy resource for everybody to use. So there are lots and lots of species gallery photo pages in there that don't have any photos on them. And that's because the gallery was populated from the FloraPix website, and there simply weren't, every species was not featured in the FloraPix website. We've uploaded hundreds and hundreds of photos since in the last 2 years, but anybody is welcome. If you have a species photo that you're sure of the ID, simply go in there, and within a minute you can easily upload it. It has your name in there, and yep, it's going to be in there forever for everybody to use. The other thing quickly is the BSI Journal Archive. Now, some of you who are members will be familiar with this. You can come into here and by clicking the button on the main page, and you have a search button there. You can put in again the name of a species or the name of a person or the title of a topic that you're wanting to research, and it will give you some results. So you can see here I've typed in Violacea, and it's going to tell me all of the plant names that have that as a species epithet, and then it will give me the journal years and the volumes and the page numbers where all of these occur. So you can see here Tillandsia violacea 2021 volume 71. There it is on the front cover of that journal. So again, this is a really handy thing to find where and what journals this plant features, and it is a really useful tool if you're doing things like writing articles. So just to summarize, for hybrids and cultivars, we use the BCR. start at the BSI website. For species and variety information, you use the BSD button. For name searches for either people or for topics and plant names, you can use the BSI Journal Archive. And the bibliography list I mentioned, EOB, encyclopedia, has a list of all of the books where the plant will feature. And last but not least, we have terminology and taxonomy. Sometimes we don't know what a word means, or we're unsure about how to decipher a description of a plant. That's where you use the BSI glossary book. And I'm sure you'll all be familiar with that after your own member, Pam Hyatt, has just recently revamped the whole book and published a new volume of it. So yeah, it's a great little book to have, and is full of awesome information. So with those 5 things, I think you'll find that you can find most things these days online very quickly and very easily. And just one final note, just beware things like Google and other out-of-date websites, because as I mentioned, not a lot of them are keeping up to date with new names and photos. So you can very easily be led down the wrong path with some of those websites. They're great for cross-checking things. But if you stick with these ones here, you can be sure that you're in the main. It's not 100% perfect, but in the main, you're going to find out what you need to find. So that's it. I hope you've all learned something today, and thank you very much.
Wow, thank you, Graeme. That was wonderful. We learned something today.
Good.